Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LeanTossup Call of Duty League podcast. My name is Robert Martin, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, CDLMetrics. Yeah, Major 4, the last major of the year. We're almost at the end of the year here. How's it feel?
Yeah, it's crazy. Usually we get a week in between a major finishing and then the next week of qualifiers, but not for this one, apparently. We are just flying to the finish line. Yeah, I just had Major 3 this last weekend. It was a ton of fun, a very competitive one, I'd say, all in all. And yeah, probably my favorite so far this year, which made a lot of sense. It was our favorite as we were talking about it last week. It set up really nicely and it didn't disappoint whatsoever. Yeah, happy to see LA Thieves get their first major win of the season. And yeah, excited to talk Major 4 qualifiers. Already a lot of news coming in this week. And yeah, looking forward to the matches coming up already on Friday here.
Yeah, let's get into it here. So, malls versus markets, how last week went. So, this is like so sad. From both of my picks, Vancouver versus FaZe and Miami versus Toronto, both lost game one and both did not cover the spread. However, both of those teams won their respective series 3-1, both of them winning the game for a hardpoint. And to top it all off, Miami 17.5 did not exist at game time. It had basically plummeted to even at game time, and they still didn't cover that. Wow. It happens, right? It happens. It happens sometimes. But you had an amazing week, though. 3-0 on your picks. That was really good.
Yeah, so I'll touch on your picks just for a second here. Agreed. Sometimes this happens. It's unfortunate. Like, we know, right, Surge and Heretics had a great weekend of COD. Yeah, like, Surge were runner-ups. Heretics were fourth, I believe. At the end of the day, they made it to Sunday. But yeah, those map ones just didn't go their way. And this is something I've tried to steer clear of more this season was, like, if we looked back on our picks from a year ago, and even the year prior to that and whatever, like, I took a lot of, not necessarily map spreads, but more map 1 money lines and map 2 money lines, map 3. I've taken a handful here and there, but yeah, I just hate when this happens where you're directionally so correct and you get nothing for it. So I've tried to pivot more towards the just match money lines, match spreads, that sort of a thing. But yeah, I'd say you got robbed on both of those. But your Boston versus Optic pick, that came through for you and for me on the -1.5. I spent a good 5 to 10 minutes talking about how LA Thieves were going to win the major. And it's never super fun because they were the favorite going into it, and +137, that's okay at best. Like, you look at, right, LA to win last week's major was, like, so much more likely, apparently, than Boston to win by 2 maps or more against Optic. They both hit, thankfully, but, like, it's talking about a future that is chalk isn't the most fun, but I just was so convinced LA Thieves were going to be there, and they were. And then, yeah, Surge, again, in that series versus Atlanta, maybe didn't go quite bold enough. Like with my Boston pick, I should have gone for the sweep in that one. Vancouver won outright in 4 against Atlanta FaZe in that winners round 1 matchup, and they set themselves up for a great run to another second-place finish. Yeah, I think good picks all around, even the ones you missed on, like, we were right there for all of those. We easily could have gone 6-0, which would have been sweet, but better days are ahead for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, even the thing is, it's on all the picks. Like, I loved Boston -1.5. I was on that one too. I didn't bet Thieves to win the major, but I was betting them pretty much through the major itself. And then obviously, I not only had the Surge +1.5, I also bet Surge moneyline in that first series as well. So yeah. And I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe just a little bit on the Surge money line. Maybe it comes through. And yeah, they just won it outright. So yeah, it worked well. Combined model plays, that's a bit rough there. Now, the thing is, Toronto, though, can be forgiven, though, because of basically Beans when we recorded the podcast, Beans was slated to play. He did not play in the major. So that one can be forgiven. Carolina, though, yeah, that one was a bit rough there when they played off against
LA Thieves.
Thieves, yeah, they got crushed there. And then FaZe, yeah, FaZe in Vancouver. But then Boston, yeah, money line, +1.5, map 2, map 1, map 2, and then the alt spread there. They did well with that. CDL points contest update. So this is interesting. So we were really tight last week, and now we are still really tight here. It is a 15-point gap between me and Doug, and you're not too far behind there, just 50 points back of Doug. And it's crazy because I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, my teams have been basically the two finalist teams in all three majors, and I'm not winning. That's not even, it's like you theoretically should be winning just from that. But that's how good Doug's team is. This has to be the most optimal team, right?
No, it's not. You make great points. You're reading my mind perfectly. You are correct in that you have had the first and second place teams at each major. If we remember back to Major 1, that was FaZe over Thieves. That's your number 1 and number 2 team. Major 2 was FaZe over Surge, I believe. Your number 1 and number 3. And then just this past one, Thieves over Surge. Your number 2 and number 3 team. So, yes, that is money for you. The one area where it's like, where could you have gained points on Doug? It's really Surge, like early season Surge was not good. I would say their run out was pretty bad. I can't remember if they started in losers bracket at Major 1, but I'm very confident they finished 8th through 12th or 9th through 12th at Major 1 and didn't pick up any points there. And then boom, Neptune comes into the lineup. It's been amazing since then. Doug, I was surprised actually to see Doug still at the top of the leaderboard, but it does make some sense. He had the winner for the first time this year. He had a major winner in LA Thieves. Toronto, good placing. Heretics, good placing. Ravens, not a good placing. But again, just having that fourth team is a huge deal if you can have an extra team on your roster. And yeah, for me, I had an okay weekend, I would say, but I knew after like Friday's match or Saturday's matches, whatever day it was, that yeah, I was probably going to fall behind you guys just with how the bracket shook out. So my 4 teams all met each other in losers round 3. So I knew I'd have 2 teams that placed top 6, and then the winners of those, one of those was going to be eliminated in 4th. So it shook out that Heretics beat FaZe, Toronto beat Boston, and then Toronto beat Heretics. So I had a 3rd, 4th, 6th. I was hoping whoever came out of that 4th place game would keep on going. If Toronto could have beat Surge and made the finals, that would have been nice, but didn't happen at the end of the day. I'm still very happy with Ultra's result, considering they had that late lineup switch. You mentioned it with our combined model plays. And it is unfortunate that like we had Toronto over Miami for the most part in their winners round 1 game, but it took them until Saturday night where they beat Miami in that game, and Mercules was looking great, and their team was going on a really nice losers bracket run. So another one where it's like maybe if they had an extra day to prepare, they would have come through in that winners round 1 game. But nonetheless, yeah, this is shaking out to be a ton of fun. And yeah, your comment, does Doug have the most optimal lineup? He doesn't. I did check that because I was like, he's got to be close if he doesn't. But I can't remember the exact combination of teams that you need, but I'm pretty sure Surge is needed in that grouping somehow. But I want to say optimal points is hovering around 1,200. So he's not too far off when you think about it, but it's really just 1 or 2 couple of different teams. But yeah, for the most part, he's doing really nice. But yeah, still a wide open race as we head into Major 4 qualifiers and Major 4.
It's got to be something where like the price of either Thieves or FaZe, actually probably be the price of FaZe, is probably more than Ultra and Ravens, and them combined is 520 versus 390, so you save. Maybe that's got to be something like that.
Yeah, if you want to go to the next slides, I can see if I can pull it up here on the side. But I think I would guess it would be Thieves, Surge, Ravens, and then maybe Miami, something like that. But I'll have to double check to see if that's still under the dollar limit that I put on everybody.
Yeah, so moving on. Yeah, so obviously, as we've talked about a little bit already, Thieves did in fact win the major. They went 4-0, 13-2 in map count. They took out Ravens, then they took out Heretics, and they played Surge in the winners bracket final, and then they just destroyed Surge 4-0 in the championship. FaZe dropped out of the winners bracket round 1 to Surge, the eventual second place finishers. They fell into the losers bracket. bracket, started dominating the losers bracket, 3-0 Cloud9 and 3-0 Optic. But then they lost to Heretics 3-2. And I think this is where, like, now for you, it sucked because you had both of them. But for me, I was really rooting for FaZe there. If FaZe had gone a little deeper, if FaZe had won that game and then gotten past Ultra, then I'd definitely be in first place right now. Because you have it, but Doug doesn't. It doesn't have FaZe. But again, it's all good. We're very close. But no, that's how close this is with a small piece like that. The question is, what is up with FaZe, right? Is there something wrong with the team? Is it maybe they don't like this game? They're not as good as this game. The other teams have caught up. What do you think it is?
Yeah, the big talking point going into last weekend, and I think still, is just FaZe's hardpoint has taken a step back for some reason. I don't know why exactly that's been the case, but yeah, that's the most important game mode, and if you're starting to lag behind for whatever reason, then it's going to hurt you in the long run. And I think, too, with FaZe is like, they had a relatively tough draw, I would say, for this bracket, and part of it is onto themselves. They were the 6th seed, so you're probably playing someone good in the first round, and sure enough, it's Vancouver Surge, and we talked about it last week. Don't be surprised if Surge come out and beat FaZe in round 1. They've been very competitive ever since the Major 2 qualifiers. And yeah, FaZe's hardpoint was just shaky throughout the qualifier period, even against bad teams. And it was never like FaZe were on a huge hardpoint losing streak. It was just a lot of splitting hardpoints against okay teams, where, with a team like FaZe, we expect them to win 2 hardpoints a lot of the time against the Rockers of the world and the Ravens of the world and whatever, and they were just splitting, and a lot of those wins that they had were very close. Yeah, all signs just pointed to, if FaZe can't turn around their hardpoint, they might have an early exit, and sure enough, that's what happened. They did run into a Miami team that is good, but again, I think most days FaZe feel like they can beat a Miami team, but in this spot they couldn't. I think FaZe will be okay at the end of the day. They have time to figure out things. There's a map set update, which we'll touch on in a little bit here, in hardpoint specifically. And again, even if their hardpoint stays where it is now, if they can up their search to what we know it can be, if their control can take a level up, that can maybe offset some struggles in hardpoint. But I think it's still comfortable to say FaZe are a top 3 team right now. They have the ability to become the best team in the game. We've seen that. They won 2 majors already this year against 2 very good teams. And even going back, this roster won the Esports World Cup last summer. They had a nice preseason tournament back in October or whenever that was. So yeah, it just happens from time to time, but I think they'll be okay at the end of the day. But yeah, just Thieves at Major 3 they were dominant. Again, with the 3-0s, and even a 4-0 in the grand finals. Just ridiculous stuff. Thieves in the qualifier period, they went 4-1. Their only loss was to Toronto Ultra in a Game 5. Their other 4 matches were 3-0s. They come in, the first 2 matches they play here, 3-0, 3-0, and then a reverse sweep, funny enough, which in a way is a sweep. Not really, but you get the point. Thieves are they're on a tear right now, and I think they're very deserving of their first place finish at the end of the day. But yeah, great major. Hopefully we'll get another one in a few weeks here at Major 4 that's just as good as this one.
Yeah, I'm excited for Major 4. It's at the DreamHack Masters event, so that'd be cool. I think this could be a really fun major coming up. And yeah, there's the CDL point standings. Thieves is in first place. Now, obviously, subject to change, it's only a 20-point lead over FaZe. But I'm fairly sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think FaZe has had the most points every year of the CDL.
That's correct.
So if this were to happen, this would actually be an upset, even if it's just an upset in the standings. Obviously, the standings don't matter for who wins at the end of the year because it's still a tournament, but that would be insane if it's the first year of the CDL that FaZe did not win the points race. That's insane. And then obviously, it's this kind of stuff, this part matters here, but we don't care about this part. We care about this part right here. We care about the cutoff line for 8th. So Vegas Falcons, I feel like, have been eliminated. Probably, or no, technically not, right? Because theoretically, if they go 5-0 and then win, they can get 100 and some odd points, right? So theoretically, they're not eliminated, right?
That's correct. Yeah, you can get 150 if you go absolutely perfect. So they could jump up to 160, which would put them barely above Optic. But again, does the math work out with these teams that are in 8th, 9th, 10th? They're going to add points just because they play each other too. I think theoretically they are alive, but it's like those charts that we show every week or every major, like our futures on Optic Texas, it's like 0.04%. It's effectively zero. They're not dead yet though, so there's fan and you're listening, like there's still a chance, but it's very unlikely to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a very small chance, but a chance nonetheless. Hardpoint map set update. So Rewind is back in Hardpoint. So basically it was 6 of 44, 14% of the hardpoints. This was actually a really fun hardpoint one. I actually really liked this one. Thieves played in 4 of their 6 maps. A Protocol is out. This is this is the map with the one that basically is the control map mostly. It was played 52 of 314 hardpoints, 17%, and then FaZe was the number 1 Protocol team. So this is actually already hurting FaZe, just this alone, which is not great. Yeah,
I wanted to touch on this just for a second. And just to go back to the standings thing, one thing I wanted to mention was Doug Leby did put out just a couple days ago, I think, that his projected cutoff for the 8 seed in champs is 180, which is where Boston sit right now. Yeah, there we go. So maybe it's 180, maybe it's 170, maybe it's 190, but it's somewhere in that range. So you have to feel good if you're Boston, Miami, everyone above that line, assuming you'll pick up another 10, 20, 30 points here during these next few weeks. But yeah, it really comes down to Optic. If Optic struggle in qualifiers, only pick up a win or 2, they're in real jeopardy of not making champs, because that opens the door for a Minnesota or a Cloud9. If those teams get hot, have a good Major 4 placement, maybe they jump you. So just wanted to put that out there, that really the race is just for the 8 seed. Maybe we get some shuffling in the 5, 6, 7 seed. But yeah, Optic they're on watch. I think you're still in a good spot. Like, I'd rather be Optic than Rocker or Cloud9, but it's been a while since Optic have been in a situation like this where champs is a real question mark for them. So just wanted to touch on that briefly. Good luck, Optic. But yeah, as far as the map set goes, this was something that I did not see coming. This is something we talked about at the Major 3, the first week of Major 3 qualifiers, because what was the map that went out? There was a map switch at that time. A Rewind came back in for Search and Destroy. That's what it was. And at that time we said, this is likely the last map set change. Usually they don't do anything after this point of the season. But yeah, we got news just today, I think it was, or maybe late yesterday, that Rewind would be returning in Hardpoint, which to me is odd. I agree with you, though. I think it's fun to watch. It's a relatively small map, and a lot of those interior parts of the map are really mixy. Like, there are a ton of corners to check and places to cover from and all that sort of stuff. And it's an aesthetically nice map. I'd say nicer than Protocol, for sure. But as far as gameplay goes, clearly the pros didn't like playing it, at least early in the season. Like, those first 2 weeks we had back in December, yeah, played 6 out of 44 times. That's pretty low. It doesn't usually get much lower than 14% play rate. But I just wanted to include that Thieves were 4 of those 6 maps that were played. They were involved in some way. I believe they went 3-1 in those, for whatever that's worth. I think Surge also played 2 of those 6 maps. But a bunch of teams just, straight up did not want to play Rewind. So just interested to see that a map that was vetoed so quickly, so early in the season, is coming back so late in the season. And it's replacing Protocol, which I don't think is a bad hardpoint map at all. Again, a sub 20% play rate, so relatively unpopular, but not terribly unpopular. And again, a hardpoint map that I don't mind watching at all. It seems to play pretty well. But yeah, one nugget I did want to include here. So FaZe are, I think, unquestionably the number 1 Protocol hardpoint team. If you just look at map record, right, they're 10-2. That's above 80% win rate. And their average margin of victory is 33 points. That's their average game, is a 33-point win, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at each team and each map, that is That's a really high bar. So FaZe run that map in a lot of aspects. So to see it go, it's really going to hurt them. I was also digging through the numbers just to see if it helps anyone in particular. And it's not really. Like, it's FaZe up here when it comes to Protocol Hardpoint. There's a good chunk of 5, 6, 7 teams that are all solid at it. There's another chunk of teams that are all subpar, but it's the teams you'd expect. It's the LAGs of the world. It's the Rockers, it's the Cloud9s. And then Vegas are obviously, like, their stats look horrible, but again, a lot of those maps were with their old team, not their new team. So, yeah, really, that's the only thing I could take away from this, is that this probably hurts FaZe. But if FaZe come out and play Rewind and they look great on it, then, again, that's not going to matter really much at all. But just one thing to note, that FaZe's hardpoint has been struggling, and this map set update looks like it hurts them too. So it's going to take a lot, I think, for FaZe to rebound in hardpoint. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that they better be good at Rewind, or they better fix some things on some other maps that are currently in the map set.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, for the Major 4 qualifiers for the expected wins, so these are your expected wins. You have Thieves at 4.35, I have FaZe at 3.74, Toronto at 3.5, Vancouver 2.9, Miami 2.69, Carolina, and then basically all around there, around the 2, and then the 2 down, and then Vegas at 0.4. So you're expecting Thieves to get the number 1 seed again, followed by FaZe, Toronto, and Vancouver. Because the thing is, Vancouver, like, FaZe plays Thieves and Vancouver, and both in week 1 too. So they do not have an easy path to get there. Coming over to mine's a bit different. Mine is a lot more bullish on Surge and more bullish on Miami, as you can just see the quick comparison there. You've got Vancouver at 2.9 and Miami at 2.6. I've got Vancouver at 4.05 and Miami at 3.23. So a bit higher on Miami, but it's notable that it's worse on Toronto as well. Now, there's a couple reasons why potentially, but that's the pieces there in terms of that. What do you think? I think some points they give us betting markets for who they think is going to be the number 1 seed. I never touched one of them yet because it's so highly variable. Which one do you think is more a correct order? Do you think it's more Thieves, FaZe, Toronto, Vancouver, or do you think the order is more closely like a Thieves, Vancouver, and FaZe in terms of order of best teams?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for most of these, at least, or what we did for Major 2 and Major 3 qualifiers, our numbers were both about as accurate as each other's. We were a little better with some teams than others. Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. I don't hate how you have Surge second. I think their number, like, 4, I guess I could see a 4-1. That's reasonable. For sure, Thieves above 4. I'm at 4.35 for them. So, yeah, I think on some teams, my numbers may be a touch low. Like Surge, I only have at 2.9. I think I'd probably set their line at 3.5 wins, if I'm being honest. Similar with Miami, I'm at 2.69 for them. I think your number's probably a little more accurate for them, just considering that they've been looking such like a completely different team lately. But yeah, my model tends to middle a lot of those teams that have had up and down seasons. So you see Miami is right next to Carolina. They're only 1 team apart in yours, but there's a big gap. There's a 1-win gap between Miami and Carolina for you. For me, it's like they're all essentially tied. So I think you've got some good spots there. Your Vegas number is a little higher. So I think there's some teams that make sense for each of us, though. Minnesota is one where we differ about a half a win, but functionally we both have them as the 7 seed. So, I think you're at 2.1, I'm at 2.6, but both 7th seed. I think that's functionally, that's notable because Minnesota, we've known, have been not so good lately. They did get 1 win at Major 3. That helped them stay in that race for the 8th seed at least. But I think better days are ahead for Minnesota. I think a lot of that was just some tough maps that did not go their way, a somewhat easier schedule this time around than at Major 3 qualifiers. So that to me is a big thing, right? If Minnesota can start above that cutoff line for the winner's bracket, that's huge. And you have Texas, Optic Texas, right on that 8 seed, 9 seed line. I have Texas as the 9 seed. So that's the scenario where it's like it might be panic time for Optic if these results hold through the next 3 weeks. Now, there's a lot that can change from then, and these numbers are so close to each other. There is not a lot separating your 6 seed from your 11 seed, really. Like, that's a half a win, not even. And same for me. It's a little more stratified for mine, but yeah, you can go I don't feel super comfortable about Carolina. That's my 6 seed, going all the way down to Cloud 9 as my 10. LAG, that would take a lot maybe to get above that cut line, but yeah, there's a good cluster, like 5 or 6 teams. Half of them are going to start above in that winner's bracket, but it's going to be really fun to find out who actually makes it and who doesn't. Because, yeah, if Minnesota make it or Cloud9 make it and Optic don't, in terms of winner's bracket starts, that could be drama in a few weeks from now.
Yeah, there is some competition there in terms of if Texas are in the winner's bracket or not, and there could be some scenarios where potentially one of these teams could, if they're in the winner's bracket and they win 1 or 2 games and Optic loses out, they could jump Optic. Optic might not go to champs. So we'll have to see. There is that scenario, but we're not quite there yet. So let's get into the matches for this week first. So first up, Friday, Vancouver versus FaZe. No spreads yet. These lines just came out 6 hours ago, guys. So these are hot off the presses, basically. Surge versus FaZe. Surge plus 120. FaZe minus 163. Surge plus 1.5 minus 188. FaZe minus 1.5 plus 137. Surge minus 120 on the money line. Plus 110 in the Surge. Minus 120 in the hard point. Plus 110 in the Surge. And plus 137 in the control. Yeah, my model, like, absolutely loves Surge here. Just, like, straight up. It likes them in the hard point. It likes them in the search. Not so much in the control, which your model also doesn't love them in the control either. But my model's got quite a lot of value on the money line and the plus 1.5. Your model is... You don't like the minus 1.5 for FaZe, but you do like FaZe money line a little bit better than I do. What's your thinking on this one? Is this kind of just a stay away for you, or do you see any value in this match?
Yeah, it's tricky. So I've done this a lot the last couple weeks, and it's unlike me to do it, but I just don't think my model is, like, acting quickly enough on, like, Surge's rebound since the Major 2 qualifiers and FaZe's slow hardpoint decline. It started to catch up with FaZe for sure. Like, FaZe are now, I think, power ranked 4th for me in terms of hardpoint. Let me double check that. Yeah, 4th best in hardpoint now among all 12 teams. I have not taken out protocol hardpoints from the data set yet. I'm sure if I did, maybe they'd drop from 4th to 5th or maybe even to 6th in hardpoint. And that is a big deal. If FaZe are just league average-ish in hardpoint, I mean, we might have a changing of the guard here in terms of, like, FaZe's reign is over in terms of being the unquestionably best team year after year. And it is shaking out in the standings right now. Like, they're 20 points back of Thieves, which is crazy just knowing that FaZe's finishes at majors so far have been 1st and 6th. And that's not good enough to be the overall 1 seed right now. LA Thieves hold that honor. And I know some of that is the minor tournaments and other placings and whatever, but that's a real signal to me that FaZe are... I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're any worse. I think it's more of just other teams are starting to catch up with them, and I think we're at the point in the year where it's like the map, like how to play specific maps and game modes is becoming more of like a meta. Like, teams know how to play this late in the season. We've been playing this game now for 7 months or 8 months, whatever it is. Yeah, I think the teams that were good, not great to start the year are really starting to pick things up and at least starting to match these elite teams. Thieves, on the other hand, are just staying above everybody else, and that's largely due to their control dominance. They've caught up in Search and Destroy after a slow start to the year, so they're on a whole nother level, I think, right now. But yeah, I like Surge. I like where your model is headed in this one. These teams just played it. Winners round 1. Vancouver won 3-1, and it wasn't super close. Like, they split the hard points. But yeah, Vancouver a round 10 win in Search, a round 4 win in Control. That's huge. If you can win Control against FaZe, that's going to help a ton, considering that FaZe, at least in my numbers, are the number 2 Control team in the game. But yeah, I do really worry with FaZe with this new map set. Protocol is out. I don't know how good of a team they are on Rewind. I suspect they'll be fine. It's not going to be like a nightmare or anything. But yeah, just considering what we just saw with Vancouver and what we've seen the last couple months with them, they can hang with these guys. And I don't know, plus 120 doesn't seem bad to me whatsoever. If you wanted to take Surge plus 1.5 at that minus 188, totally good with that too. If you want to flip that and say Vancouver Surge, I think, do what they did a week ago and win 3-1 or better, I think that's plus 250 if you wanted to do that. So a lot of different ways you can play this. But yeah, I think real chance Vancouver win maybe both hard points this time around. Maybe drop the search or the control, but either way, I think they have a lot of paths to get this done, and this is quite the match to start out Friday afternoon with. But yeah, I'm with you. I think I like Surge here in this spot.
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty fun. I'm pretty excited for this one. Next up, Friday match 2, Carolina versus Toronto. Carolina plus 225 on the money line. Toronto minus 300. Plus 1.5, plus 100 for Carolina. Minus 1.5, minus 138 for Toronto. Carolina plus 200 on the money. Toronto minus 275 in the hard point. Minus 138 in the search. And then minus 200 in the control. I don't love a lot in this match. My model's pretty much right on with the book here. Carolina is really iffy. I don't love them in this spot. The big question mark for me is Toronto on this. Who is playing for Toronto? Is it Beans or is it Mercules? Who's playing for Toronto? I'm gonna go with it's Beans, probably, but I'm not the most confident in that. I will say yet again, this is Toronto Ultra having the best farm system yet again. They're having the deepest roster in terms of subs, so shout out to them yet again for that. I don't know what it is with this organization, but every single time they always are like, oh, okay, yeah, we need someone. Okay, we have this. This is the organization that brought us Scrap and Hixie and now Mercules, and before it was Insight too, right? It's like they're always just right there with another pro player. It's crazy. But
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
think for me, I'm staying away from this one. But I don't. I want to stay away from this one. I don't want to touch this one.
Yeah, I mostly feel the same way as you do. This one feels priced pretty accurately considering what these teams have done lately. I think you have to make Toronto a big favorite in this spot. Yeah, praise for Ultra, I think, is very justified. Like, it's part of the reason why I took them in that CDL season-long contest we're doing, is because they were relatively affordable, and I had years to look back on and say, look at what they did this season and this season. And they always can produce players. They have a good coaching staff. They know what they're doing. And like they've held that Insight Kleenex duo together for a while. I think that continuity helps. Joe Deceives, very underrated player. I love that he is just popping off this season and really proving himself. And then, yeah, the fact that you lose a player like Beans to such an unfortunate, I think it was a visa issue, couldn't go to the event. Obviously, I think they're in Toronto when they play online, but some trouble with him getting to the U.S. to play in Florida. But they go, okay, who's the best Challengers player that can fill his role? This Mercules kid, I don't know. We'll throw him in and see what he does. And the first series, not great. I hung in with a really talented up-and-coming Heretics team. That was very much viewed as a toss-up for a lot of people. And then, like, after that, they were just ripping through teams in the losers bracket, which it's not as easy as it sounds. It's like, okay, yeah, you go down to play LAG, we expect you to win, and they just blew past them. They get Minnesota in the next round. Again, easy 3-1 win, but the hard points were just coming in like hot fire. You get Boston in round 3, killed them in hard point, which that to me was the big one of, okay, this Ultra team, based on what they just did to Boston, like they could win this whole thing, as crazy as it would be. They didn't, but yeah, Toronto's hardpoint looked nasty last weekend, and that is huge for them because they had been league average, maybe a little above average hardpoint team throughout the season, quality search team, quality control team, but if one of those game modes can take the next step up, and in particular if it's hardpoint, that does a lot for you. That just is awesome. So I agree. I think it's also Beans, not Mercules, this weekend. But I don't know if that matters much. Like, I think you can make the argument if Beans was in the lineup last weekend, they would have had a third place finish or a fourth place finish, whatever it was, just as easily with him. So it's a good problem to have if you're ultra. Ravens are, yeah, you're right on Ravens. Ravens are tricky. Like, we've only seen them play Thieves twice with this new lineup, and both times they were just not even close. And then they ran into Rocker in Losers Round 1. Last week I was saying, hey, I wouldn't mind Rocker in that spot if they're an underdog. And Rocker came through relatively easily. Ravens only picked up a 3-1 control win. Other than that, the hard points were not good. The search was really bad, which is the big concerning thing with Ravens is that, right, you make a late season roster move, and you're a quality team. Like, Ravens are safely in champs. They should be like the 4 or the 5 seed. They've been good pretty much all year, largely due to their success in search and control, and occasionally they can get some hard points in there and pick off some maps. This new lineup is now struggling in that search and control thing. It's, if your hard point isn't getting better, then this is a real problem, and like, maybe we should just switch back to the old lineup and commit ourselves to, okay, we're a search and control team. That's fine. It's going to take a lot to beat these elite teams. But I just worry that if you ride with this lineup and the results continue to look like this, where you're struggling to get wins against the Rockers of the world, the Cloud9s of the world, that sort of group, I think you could make a justifiable case that Vivid should come back into the lineup, and let's at least solidify or re-solidify those search and control game modes. So yeah, really, just a really interesting weekend ahead for Ravens to see how they look, especially against a hot Ultra team like this. But yeah, I'm with you. I think a stay away for me, but if anything, I prefer the Ultra side if I had to pick one or the other. So, tricky one, but I think this is a good one to watch and just see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Third match on Friday. I know this is not an error from us. There are no lines for this game. I'm as shocked as you guys. There is no line for this game, at least not yet. I'm not sure why, but they don't seem to want to put any numbers there. I think they're expecting a team change on Cloud9. But that's not stopping us. We have numbers. Like, the main bar is just set to 50-50. Ignore that, but because you have to put it somewhere. But yeah, we've got somewhere along the lines of Cloud9 about a 80-ish% chance to win. Vegas, maybe a bit higher. Vegas around a 15% chance, maybe 85 to 15, something like that. We'd probably price the -1.5 at around, what's a 65? What's that? -1.
-200-ish. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, -200-ish. And then we'd have Cloud9 as decent favorites in the hard point, decent favorites in the search, and then even stronger favorites in the control. And our numbers are pretty similar there, right? So use our numbers as a guide, right? It's fun, right? Because this is how I play every week when I see, like, on Sunday night, generally Sunday night, either Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on if Sunday night was like insane for me, I scrape the last data from the night before, and then I put it all, I basically then, first thing in the season, I write down every match for the entire season by major, and then I just have it ready to go. I copy paste it into a sheet and then run the week's data, the games for the week, and then I have it all, and I'm sitting there with what I have as the numbers, and then the second the numbers come up, I then start betting comparatively on that. So, for example, if you see Cloud9 like -1.5 at +100, go, right? That's the kind of thing you have to do. You have to know what the number is in your head and then know what number you want to get it at, right? If it's a lower number, you bet it, because generally some of these numbers move. Some of these numbers don't stay static. Sometimes other people are doing the exact same thing as me. People have models just like us, right? So if you see that number, immediately go in and grab that. Anything else you want to add on this game?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think our models are probably too high on Cloud9 at this point in time, and I've said this the last couple weeks, that my model is just not going to be in on Vegas for the rest of the year based on what they've done lately. Specifically in Hardpoint, they've been quite good, or a mile ahead of where they have been. Both of these teams were 0-3 swept in Losers Round 1 at Major 3. Cloud9 3-0 swept by FaZe. The Search was around 11, so that was close. The other two maps were not. And then Vegas had that intriguing match against Optic, which we were like, could they do it again? And Optic 3-0'd them. So It was a good rebound for Optic. None of the maps were particularly close. Both teams falling flat just a week ago, or last weekend, I should say. But I do want to say this, because I think there's a legitimate case you can make that, like, this should be a coin flip. If we scrap all the data for Falcons from before Major 3 qualifiers started, like just that whole chunk of the season, just erase it, and you just look at what they've done Major 3 qualifiers and Major 3, we can include their map or their series against Optic, and you compare it to what Cloud9 have done in that same time period, there is not much separating these teams. So I suspect, like, even though our models are saying the Cloud9 minus 1.5 would be minus 200-ish, I would guess that it's going to be much shorter than that. Like, I think Cloud9 money line probably opens up like minus 150, somewhere in that range. And if it's much shorter than that or much longer than that, I think then you can take some action. But that's at least where I would expect it to open, just based on what these teams have done lately. Yeah, a fascinating match in, I guess, the way that makes some... It's weird because, like, we have NFL games from time to time or college football games from time to time where two really bad teams match up, and it's like, you don't want to watch it because you don't want to watch bad football teams, but if they're somewhat evenly matched, it can make for some fun. I think we're in the bucket of that for this match. This could be wild. I could see a Game 5 Round 11. I could see one of these teams just outright sweeping the other team, and it's not even close. So I think we're in for a wide range of outcomes in this one. And yeah, I'd say if Cloud9 don't win this, then boy, oh boy, like, good luck making champs, because you're probably not going to get a much easier match than this the rest of the season. So should be a fun one, but I don't blame you if you want to skip it.
No, that's fair. I agree. I think this one could be less interesting, I think. Moving on, Minnesota versus Vegas. Minnesota minus 250 on the money line. Vegas plus 175. Minnesota minus 1.5 plus 100. Vegas plus 1.5 minus 138. Minnesota minus 150 in the hard point, minus 188 in the search, and minus 188 in the control. Yeah, we both kind of like Minnesota a little bit in the hard point, at least. You like them in the series in the minus 1.5. I think that's just because my model doesn't like them in the search, so therefore if it goes to a Game 5, my model doesn't like them, and it also really doesn't like them in the control. But it does like them in the hard point. This is another one where if Cloud9 does just come in and stomp Vegas, I think you could be looking at this number could spike a bit, and that would be when you might want to try to get this. So if it's looking like Vegas is struggling against Cloud9, maybe jump in, grab the Minnesota minus 1.5 while you still can. What are your thoughts on this one? Are you going with Minnesota on this one?
I think I am. So this is a weird one because, again, I say every Vegas match, like, my model is way, way too low on Vegas, but I think it's still directionally accurate in this one. Vegas, their hard point has been much improved, and that is worth noting. That's the most important game mode we have. But I don't think there's a ton separating these two teams in that game mode specifically. Like, I think the market is about right in Map 1. I think we might be a touch high, but Map 2 and Map 3, Vegas Falcons, even with this new lineup, have not produced in either of those game modes really at all. They have, I think, one win each in those game modes since they've had this new lineup come onto the scene. So, right, part of me is saying, okay, if Vegas improve even a little bit in those game modes and they can hold steady as like a mediocre hardpoint team, like they shouldn't be this much of an underdog. At the same time, I think the Minnesota just like downturn slide is starting to make their prices a little attractive, where it's, I think, like a split hard point and Minnesota pick up a win in Map 2 and Map 3. I think that's a real possibility. And if they're splitting those hard points, there's a real chance that Minnesota can just sweep them, and it looks a lot like what we saw versus Optic just last weekend, where it's over and done with pretty quick. So I think Vegas are still like somewhat fragile. As fun as they are, like, if their hard point takes a step back and their search and control don't rebound to the level we need it to, I think Minnesota are still positioned to pick up this win relatively easily. And this is one they got to have, right? They are in the 9 seed right now. You're going to have to pick up this win if you want to catch Optic. And I think they're more than capable of doing so. I think In Minnesota, they got the win against Ravens. I don't want to just gloss over that. That was a quality win. We don't know much about this Ravens team, but winning 3-1 after what they had done is still a good look for them. And then they ran into Toronto and things didn't go as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, I do trust Rocker a lot more than this Falcons team. And yeah, if the -1.5 is even money, I think that's pretty good value. I think more times than not, Minnesota probably finished this quickly than it going the distance or Falcons winning. Yeah, I guess I'm back in Rocker just ever so slightly. I don't love it, but I think I definitely lean in that direction.
Yeah, makes sense. Saturday match 2, Carolina versus Boston. Carolina +100, Boston -138 on the money line. Carolina +1.5 -200, Boston -1.5 +150. Carolina +110 -138, +110 in the hard point, -138 in the search, and +100 in the control. This one's a bit interesting, where we both kind of like Carolina here. But weirdly, I really don't like, my model really doesn't like Carolina in the search. Sorry, in the control. Very weird, but your model actually likes Carolina more. It actually likes them to win outright in the control. Very weird numbers there in terms of that. But again, I think we both are broadly in line with Carolina money line here. We both think Carolina is a better team than Boston. And to be fair, this is what Carolina does, right? They're good against the bad teams, and they're good against kind of the middle of the pack teams. But the second they play a top team, they really struggle. And I think it's somewhat clear that Boston is not a top team. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's tricky. I love Boston. I have all year. I've been backing the Boston breach. And for the most part, they came through last weekend. They swept Optic. I went out on a limb saying they would win -1.5, and they did. They won in a sweep. After that, they had 2 match losses. So they advanced from winners round 1, drop down, lose to Surge, lose to Toronto, who are both great teams, but they lost 3-1 both times. They didn't win any of the hard points they played. Their only map wins. They had a 3-0 control win versus Vancouver, which I think is notable because Boston, their control has arrived. Boston are no longer horrible at control, which is why I think I don't like my number on Ravens in map 3. I think the market's about right. I think it's about a 50-50, and if you want to make Boston a favorite at this point, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. And their win against Toronto was a 6-4 search. And we know they've been a competitive search team all year as well. But yeah, this is a stay away for me. It feels right. I shouldn't say it's a stay away. What I'll say is that what Boston did last weekend does give me some pause of, okay, clearly they're better than Optic. They ran into Surge. They ran into Toronto. They were pretty uncompetitive in those game modes. Where do Ravens fall? I think Ravens, right now at least, are closer to Optic than they are to Ultra, and definitely from Surge. They're not even close to Surge. So Boston, I still want to buy on. Their control has bounced back in a huge way. Their search is competitive, and I think right now with this new Ravens team, my model might be overrating their search just a touch. So yeah, I think I'd make Boston a slight favorite in each game mode, maybe a sizable favorite in map 1. And at the end of the day, that means I'm leaning Boston 3-1 here in this spot, and that's +150. That seems good to me. So the thing that gives me some pause, again, is just Ravens with this new lineup. We haven't seen much of them, and 2 of their 3 matches have been against Thieves. So yeah, they got blown out both times. We would have loved to see them be competitive, but let's see more maps, more matches against teams like Boston, against teams like Heretics, right? These middle-of-the-pack teams, to see where this current Ravens team falls. I think they're definitely competitive. I think Ravens can definitely win this, but at least right now, I like where Boston are headed. I like where their control is, and I trust their hardpoint and their search a good bit. Yeah, I think Boston get this done probably a 3-1. Prove me wrong, Ravens, but I'm still back in Boston breach here. I just like them too much.
Mm-hmm. Saturday, match 3, Vancouver versus Optic. Vancouver -334 on the money line. Optic +240. Surge -1.5 -150. Optic +1.5 +110. Vancouver -334 in the hard point, -150 in the search, and -150 in the control. Yeah, your model's a bit more bullish on Optic here. Mine is not. My model really likes Surge, especially on the money line and especially in the -1.5. Really likes them in the search and a bit in the hard point, and that's enough to get you the -1.5. Your model has some hope for Optic. Do you hold out that hope too, or do you see this kind of going sideways for them?
I don't know. It's a smidge of value on Optic +1.5. Most of that value coming through map 1, where, I don't know, Optic have been a little up and down lately in that game mode. And we know Surge are playing very well right now. I don't know. I think my model is about right. Like, I'd give Optic between a 30 and 40% chance probably in every game mode. And yeah, to me, that screams 3-1 for Vancouver. Now, I don't love the -1.5 price on Surge at -150, but yeah, to me, this is more, okay, the market has finally caught up on Optic. Like, putting them at +240 against Vancouver Surge, who are a good team, right? That to me signals like, okay, yeah, we know this Optic team is nowhere close to Surge. They're even further away from FaZe and Thieves. I want to see what LA Thieves versus Optic would be if it was played this weekend. I would guess Optic would be, I don't know, 4-1, 5-1 to win the match outright. And maybe that's even shorting it some. So yeah, I hope Optic can rebound, but man, it's going to take a lot. I don't think it's impossible though. Like, they have some talented players on their team. I said it weeks ago when they were going through their struggles of Optic are just going to be this team where maybe they fall flat on their face against some of the worst teams in the league, but maybe they're weirdly competitive against these elite teams at the same time. So that dynamic just makes it really tough to pick on or against Optic for the rest of the year. So yeah, this one is a stay away for me. My model, I guess, is pointing me in the Optic direction, but I just can't do it. I don't know. I think Surge are too good right now, and Optic are just too shaky. So yeah, one I'll definitely watch, but my faith in Optic is quite low right now.
Yeah, I don't believe in this team either. Not anymore after what we've been seeing recently. Saturday match 4, Thieves versus Heretics. Thieves -1,200 on the money line. Again, crazy for a team that came fourth on Sunday. They are a -1,200 favorite against them. +600 for Heretics. Thieves -2.5 +110, +2.5 -150, -500 in the hard point, -200 in the search, and -800 in the control. And yeah, I've got some value on the Miami +2.5. I think the model likes Miami somewhat in the hard point, but outside of that, it doesn't like Miami in the search. It doesn't like them in the search, and it doesn't really like them in the control. A little bit in the control, but not that much. Again, I think Miami might make a bit of they can maybe cash the +2.5. I think that there's definitely a path for them, and they are favorites to do that as well. -150, not insignificant to take one map, but that would be one more map than they took when they played them last time. This game just happened on Thursday, literally a week ago, and it's already happening again. So I don't know if I want to necessarily step in front of Thieves, but wait, isn't there like a major hangover curse where a team that wins the major, don't they like go on to? Oh no, but some of them a curse.
Sometimes, yeah. I feel like it's a little 50-50 on that. One that comes to mind was last season. Optic had a crazy run where they were on top of the world and couldn't lose, and then the next qualifier period they didn't win anything and showed up to the next major and didn't do anything. So it does happen where you can go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, but like FaZe, I mean, they won back-to-back majors already this year. I guess you can say their qualifier periods have been a little shaky to start out, but yeah, no, you make a good point. This match did just happen. This was winners round 2 on Saturday. I thought it would be closer than this because, yeah, LA Thieves over 100-point win in map 1, 6-0, 3-0. It was all LA Thieves. Just a super, super impressive run for them right now. I will say your model and my model are both pointing in the Miami map 1 direction, and I don't hate that. You're getting +333 for Miami to win that first hard point. I mean, they got blown out less than a week ago against the same team, maybe on a new map. Maybe if this is rewind hard point, things can be different. I'm curious to see what the map spread in map 1 is, if it's really big, if it's 40, 50 points maybe. They could cover that. But yeah, search is going to take a lot even, and we know control is probably not happening against Thieves. Yeah, it really comes down to, can Miami do something in map 1? Can they squeak through maybe a 6-5 in map 2? I think they can. I generally like taking teams to outproduce the last result we just saw, and it generally doesn't work, I'll say that. Like Carolina, right? Last week we're like, oh, Carolina, LA Thieves. The last several times they've played them, it's been 0-3 sweeps, but this time's going to be different, and then it's not different. But I don't know. I think online, new hardpoint map set tweak, maybe things can be different. Maybe Miami can push them to at least that map 4, if not a map 5. That would be really exciting if they could do that. But yeah, I fully expect Thieves to win this. 3-1, I would say, is probably the most likely outcome. But if it's not that, yeah, it does seem like Thieves can probably just 3-0 them once again. So interested to watch, but unless Miami do something in map 1, I am a little worried about what their future holds. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Last up now we're to Sunday last day. LAG versus Miami. LAG plus 300 on the money line. Miami minus 450. LAG plus 1.5 plus 125. Miami minus 1.5 minus 175. LAG plus 250 on the money line in the hard point. Heretics minus 350. Minus 188 in the search, and then minus 163 in the hard point. Yeah, I have this priced very fairly. I really don't see much to bet here at all. I've got nothing. I have nothing. I don't really have any angle to bet here at all. I'm just going to maybe watch this one. We'll see.
Yeah, this one, not super exciting. I just think anytime LAG are going to come up in a match preview, we're just going to be like, yeah, this is fine. These prices seem fine to me. Miami should be a huge favorite. LAG haven't done anything lately. Miami have looked pretty nice the last few weeks. I don't know. Maybe you can make a case for LAG map 2 or map 3, but again, I don't really like going individual maps at all. So, I don't know. This would be a real surprise. If LAG could push this to a map 5, I would be pleasantly surprised. I know my model is trying to point me in that direction, but I can't get on board with that. So, yeah, at the end of the day, again, probably a 3-1 here, Heretics. LAG make a roster move in the next couple of days, that wouldn't be shocking. But again, I don't know how much that helps them, depending on who they even pick up. Yeah, fully expect Heretics to get by in this spot, probably rebound from their prior match versus LA Thieves. But yeah, LAG, again, they just haven't shown a strength in this run of losing that they've had. Like, you can't point to their search, you can't point to their control, you can't point to their hardpoint. They pick up wins here and there in certain maps, but it's hard to really pinpoint what they're good at, and I think that is a problem for them. Yeah, I fully expect Heretics to get by, and I don't even know if I'm going to watch this one. Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not, I think, is how I feel about it as well. Again, no lines for this. There's not a line for this game, so we are making our own here. We have some variants, though. I do the fictional Cloud9 plus 1.5 match, which I like it more than you, but we very differ on the money line here. I've got Cloud9 a lot more competitive than you have him, but outside of that, we both think Toronto's a far better hardpoint team. We both think the search is closer to 50-50, a relatively competitive search. But then I think Cloud9's better at control, and you think Toronto's better at control. So this one's kind of all over the map here. And the thing is, both these teams could have team changes, right? Toronto may or may not have Beans in this match. We'll have to see. Cloud9 may or may not have a team change. We don't even know. Yeah,
this one is funky. I'm just looking at individual maps to see if there's anything that sticks out. But I don't know. I trust my model on this one. I think, yeah, Toronto are a justifiable big favorite in hardpoint. Cloud9 have just really fallen off in that game mode specifically. Yeah, and I think I still prefer Toronto in both map 2 and map 3. I am looking at just like vetoes in map 3 specifically. Cloud9 worst vault team we have. Toronto are ranked 3rd by my numbers, so that's likely Cloud9's veto. And then Toronto Hacienda, I have them power ranked 10th, Cloud9 6th. So Cloud9 would have a slight edge on Hacienda. Protocol, Cloud9 4th, Toronto 3rd. So that is very much a coin flip. If we get Protocol, I think I'd lean Toronto in that spot. Hacienda, I guess I'd lean New York. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe my control number is a little low on Cloud9, just knowing that we're very likely not playing Vault. So maybe that would give them a slight bump up in terms of win probability. But yeah, 60-40 search I feel good about for Toronto. 75-25 or so hard point. I think that's about right. So yeah, fully expecting Toronto to probably open up at, I don't know, minus 300 favorites, somewhere in there. Minus 1.5 at even, something like that. Something in that ballpark. We'll see if it opens close to those numbers. But yeah, again, another one where it really feels like a 3-1. Like Toronto clear cut above New York. New York good enough to win a map here or there. But yeah, unless New York can have a surprise pickup here in the next couple of days, which the books seem to indicate might happen, that can change things, right? Like a new lineup could infuse some much needed life into this Cloud9 team, and maybe all of a sudden you're competitive against the Torontos of the world. We'll just have to wait and see on the news if any of that comes in and what the prices are when they come out. But yeah, at least where it stands now, I feel very good about Ultra winning this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sunday, match 3, FaZe versus Thieves. FaZe plus 150 on the money line, Thieves minus 200. Thieves plus 150 minus 138. Thieves minus 1.5 plus 100. Thieves minus 200 favorite in the hard point, minus 120 in the search, basically dead even, and then minus 188 in the control. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much on book with all of them. I like Thieves on the money line just ever so slightly, but we're basically, I don't think the minus 1.5 is enough for a play for me. I like Thieves in the hard point. I like them a little in the search. I don't like them as much in the control against FaZe. But outside of that, this is pretty much bang on where we have it. It should be a very good match. This is a match we didn't get in Major 3. People maybe thought we were going to get that, but we just didn't get it because the FaZe went to the losers bracket and didn't get out. Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting series. This will be a fun one to watch, but again, it's very notable that FaZe is in fact an underdog, a plus 150 underdog. I don't remember seeing FaZe as an underdog for a very long time.
Yeah, it is a little shocking to see because it has been a while, if ever, that FaZe has been a plus 150 to win any match. But it feels about right to me. I would prefer, if anything, Thieves in this spot, and I know they're the hottest team in the league right now. They can't stop winning. They can't stop 3-0ing teams, it seems. But again, I just go back to hardpoint. Like this map set update I think is a big deal, even though it's just one map in, one map out. If FaZe do in fact continue what they've done in hardpoint, and Thieves just keep on keeping on with where they're at, yeah, I don't know. Thieves, so far this season, Thieves have won 68% of their hardpoints, and they've played a league average, a little above league average hard point schedule, which makes sense. At this point in the year, everyone's played about a league average schedule across the board. But if we're calling FaZe like a middle of the pack hard point team, maybe just above that, yeah, I don't see why Thieves aren't like a 65-70% chance to win those hard points, especially now that Protocol is out. That would be the one map. If we were playing this map set, like the old map set this weekend, Protocol hardpoint would be the one hardpoint map where FaZe have an edge, according to my numbers. But now, and maybe they do have an edge if they play Rewind. We don't know that. And actually, I will say this. I did some digging earlier. Thieves 3-1 on Rewind. I mentioned that nugget earlier. They played 4 of the 6 Rewind maps back in December. Their one loss was a 9-point loss to FaZe. So if that's any indication, I would guess FaZe are willing to play Rewind again. It's the same teams from December. They got a win on it. We'll see if Thieves maybe veto that. I think they should, considering that I have them ranked as number 1 or number 2 on every other hardpoint map. So, yeah, to me, I think Thieves can just bank on hardpoint. We know their control is next level. If they wake up and feel like they want to play well in Search and Destroy, which lately they have, they can absolutely compete with FaZe, who I still have as the number 1 search team in the game. So for FaZe, it's just a slightly narrower path to victory than what they're used to. Like, to me, the easiest way to go about it is you win a couple of searches against Thieves, and maybe you get that Rewind hardpoint back in. You can win that. Maybe somehow you can beat them in control. That is a tall task, but FaZe are no slouches in control either, so I can definitely see that happening too. But I like where Thieves are right now. I don't think the price is too expensive. I'm curious to see where it is once we get to this match on Sunday night. But yeah, Thieves, again, I think there might be a changing of the guard. This Thieves team is super legit. And yeah, I have a lot of faith in them to make a run during this qualifier period, maybe make another run at Major 4, and we'll see champs when we get there. But yeah, love Thieves here, and hopefully this match lives up to what we're expecting, because this should be fireworks.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this match. This match should be pretty good either way. Last up, models versus markets. Here are our picks for the week. A lot of Surge here on the board. I've got Surge straight up versus FaZe. You've got them. You've got the -1.5. You same match. I've got Carolina versus Boston, and you actually have Boston -1.5 versus Carolina. So we're on opposite sides of that one. And then I've got Surge -1.5, -150 versus Texas. I'm not the biggest fan of doubling up on teams. Sometimes it doesn't really work too well for me, but sometimes it does. What are go through your picks? What do you got there?
Yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of anything really this week. I feel like the market is starting to nail down the prices pretty well, but again, I have a lot of faith in Boston despite a bad Saturday for them this past weekend. I think their control has rebounded nicely over the last few weeks. Their hardpoint and search should still be good, and I have a lot of question marks with Ravens still. So for them to win 3-1 or better, I think is pretty reasonable, and you get +150 for that. Yeah, and then my other two picks are just fading FaZe. Again, I think this map set thing could be a real issue. It could just aid in their problems, if that even makes sense, in hardpoint specifically. So unless FaZe are able to play Rewind and look good on it, or if they can figure something out on these other maps where they're middle of the pack and can vault themselves up, then I don't know. I just think they're going to have some trouble against these teams. I think for FaZe, like, the most likely outcome is you probably split this weekend against these two teams, but I think there's a real chance that you could drop both of them. Yeah, very curious to see how those games play out, but I just need one of them to come through for it to make sense, if that makes any sense. Yeah. I hate doing it, but I'm doing it.
Combined model plays. Here's not a lot of combined model plays this week. There's, for reasons, right? Obviously, one, in a lot of cases, the model is very close to the market, so not much there. Also, there's some differences between our models this week. So FaZe map 3, we have that, and then we also have, that's on Friday. On Saturday, we have Minnesota -1.5 in map 1. We have Carolina Moneyline +1.5. We have Vancouver map 2. We have Thieves map 2, and we have Miami map 1 there on for all of that. Other than that, we will be here again next week. Next week, 2 out of 3. We only have 3 more weeks left of the regular season. That's it. Actually, no, sorry. We've done 1 week, basically 2 weeks left now, basically, in terms of, for us at least. Then we're going to have Major 4, Champs, and then Esports World Cup. Only a handful more of us, but yeah, we will be back next week, and we'll be out by Thursday as well. Other than that, yeah, have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week. See you, everybody.